So anyway, how do you guys like it?
I thought it was
Um,
good.
yeah,
Thought it was pretty decent.
Okay. Um, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like, if this is the last bit of Ruby content we're ever getting,
it's gonna be kind of bad.
it's
place
gonna
to
be
end up.
bad. But, um, probably not, because I have this thing called hope. I'm not naturally evil like certain creators, who actively want the show to die. It seems like. Uh, you know who you are, and if you get offended by that comment, congratulations. I do not care. Anyway, yeah, no, it would be fun. It's fine. I just really, if this is the last hurrah of Ruby, it's kind of gonna suck. But not really much you can do. Um, I I gotta be honest. I didn't mind the junior detectives bit, but it has to like stay a bit. Like
Yeah.
don't um don't turn it like into something.
Don't turn all of Beyond into just Junior Detectives.
Yeah, like this little story was fine for it. It worked. Maybe next time we could get one with Team Coffee. That'd be pretty cool. We could get one about Crow, explaining why Crow is like being more happy. I don't know. You could be like, oh, Robin's had a positive. Robin has had a positive effect on him by always having someone to rely on. Crow is like in a better mood, or whatever. You could say that like Theodore is like a really good friend of his, and therefore he's in a like explore little things like that. I think that's gonna help. Um, it's I don't know. I just had fun with it. It wasn't. It's not anything substantial, but it's there. It's all right. Also, when Volume 10 comes out, it's good. Pretty cool Blu-ray extra. uh, yeah. But anyway, I had fun with it. Uh, I think we all agreed it's like a 6, right?
Yeah.
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 6 out of 10. Nothing. It's not horrible, but it's a little more good than bad, which, isn't a bad thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's all. So, Ruby Beyond is episode 2 is out. I quite enjoyed it. I would say this is definitely an improvement over the last episode. And why is that? Well, the story focuses around John dealing with, feeling out of place in the world. And we do see that he reunited with his team. And all is going technically well, but the emotional strain of being in the ever after is not the best thing in the world. Also, we do find a little bit of background information. For example, Lewis and Alex existed before the war, which is crazy. So that adds, technically my timeline can still work, just not for the reasons you might think, because I did 100 years. Anyway, check out that video. But yeah, this was actually a lot of fun, and we watched John, start a journal. He also talks with Oscar, which is really crazy, because he's starting to show signs that he's not really Oscar now, and he's actually merging into a combination of the both, which is really interesting. Then, as I mentioned before, we get a flashback to Lewis and Alex where we find out that information, but not just that, we find out that they were there for like, Alex and Lewis were there for significantly longer than what I initially assumed, because I thought it was like a 2-day trip, like the exact same as like Team RWBY, right? But I guess it wasn't. And unfortunately, we don't get enough information to collectively like piece everything together, because this information is more to build up the fact of how emotionally destroying it is for John. And while Oscar does help him, and it is really fascinating to see Oscar and John interact in this kind of almost backwards mentor way, it's really interesting, and just overall kind of fun. I do really wish, though, we got to see like some interactions between Nora, Ren, and John, because we find out one thing. We find out that Nora makes jokes about John being the resting knight, and it kind of throws everything off. But at the same time, it's not. That's more of a nitpick than like a true captivating criticism, right? And I did enjoy it. I also think that it's kind of bittersweet, um, especially that campfire scene was kind of sad when we see Lewis, Alex, Ren, Nora, and Pyrrha all eating around the campfire, and he's talking about things he's fighting for, and then he breaks down and basically says that that's how he feels around the fire, and or that's how he feels when he that's how he felt around those campfires that he loved so much. And then we cut to like a shot of so many campfires being lit up all over Vacuo, but there's no campfire where John is, because we know he's like at the main central building and there's no light coming from it, you know? So even if he's back now, he's not having the same experiences that he thinks other people are having. And then Oscar kind of and then he like wonders, are we going to make it out of this? And then Oscar asks, well, at the campfire, did it matter if you were going to make it out of it? And he says, no, it didn't. Which, yeah, it was an emotional 5 minutes. Also, listen, I'm not trying to slander, but I think Miles put more effort into this one than he did the last one. I just think generally it mattered more. Like, it's much, there was more effort in this one, I feel personally, not just through the script but also just generally through the voice acting. I'm sorry, but John Miles gave a much better performance as John than really anyone in the last episode. So overall, I would say this is a relatively good, like, no, not relative, this is a good improvement. It's obviously like not the best thing in the world, right? It's still the spin-off Premiere Pro animation, but you know, it's fun, and it gave us some more insight into John, so I'm gonna give it an overall 7 out of 10. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. See you later. Alrighty. The last 2 episodes of And Beyond are out, and guess what? Once again, these were an improvement over the first one. They weren't really... the Ever After one wasn't really as heartfelt as John's, but the one with Yang and RWBY was obviously very interesting considering what happened in Volume 9. Now, I quite enjoyed this. I quite enjoyed all of it. I am super happy with how this turned out, and guess what? Everything about it was pretty good. So, starting off with Little's plot, we cut to him and Juniper going around. They meet the gemstones, they go to the market, they go to the herbalist, and then they eventually meet the Red King. And basically what happens is, as Little is the new person who guides Ever Afterans back to redemption, and from falling out of, like, you know, losing their purpose, Little this time instead decides to play a game with the Red King, and because of that, he changes the Red King's mind, and we see that now they're not using the special flowers. If them, they're not using the leaves of the tree. So, what we can infer from this is that Little's way of making people change, or is not sending them to a tree to get rebuilt. It is to convince them that they don't need that particular purpose. They can live for something else, which, you know, based off of what RWBY said last time, very good message, right? Anyway, yeah. Oh, and one other thing. We see a portal at the end. Yeah, we see a portal at the end, which is kind of a big deal. Like, and apparently Little knows this person, so it's either John or that's RWBY, or like, I don't know, maybe Ty showed up and he thought it was John. I don't know, something, right? And that was crazy. They're setting up more things than they're finishing, but to put into perspective, we might actually get a volume 10. I made a little video on that not too long ago, and everything looks to be talking good, so most likely we will get a volume 10. So this actually does work as setup, which means, hey, guess what? Everything is automatically better, because if this was the final thing of RWBY, it would not be that great, but since it's not, it's pretty great. Then, next one is episode 4. We start with Yang and RWBY being sisters, and this time it's only Yang and RWBY. No other additional characters, which we kind of needed. RWBY, we find out RWBY's like kind of a celebrity because everyone saw her message, and since it's her message, she's the one who has to, like, all the people of Vacuo are like, oh, Vacuo Veil, all that, they're like, oh, RWBY's the person who brought us together, and that's pretty good. But you know, you can. It's interesting to see RWBY finally being like a kind of almost superhero archetype, or like she says they need more than a mascot, which, you know, obviously she is, but you can tell that that's kind of eating away at her too. Wonder if that will turn into something. And then they get introduced to Baba or blah blah something. Blah blah. I don't know. I'm not good at that stuff. Anyway, it's a drink place. They moved, and Yang took her there, where they have their nice little talk. Yang essentially apologizes to RWBY. She's like, hey, I'm really sad that I couldn't do anything when you needed my help, and you know, that really hurt me, and I can only imagine how much it hurt you to not have anyone to talk to, especially since I'm your sister. And they kind of talk things out, and they, you know, RWBY opens up a little bit, and then Yang's like, hey, let's make a word that, you know, we'll find out whenever one of us feels overwhelmed. And RWBY's like, how about blah blah, or something like that. Yeah, she names it after that. And yeah, it was a pretty sweet moment. I thoroughly enjoyed both these episodes. Once again, improvement over episode 1. And I can safely say it now, though, that if we do get a volume 10, this is really good setup for everything. It engages us, it gives us a few questions, and they are seemingly adding more questions than answers, but, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing if we know what's coming in the future, which in this case will most likely be a volume 10. Anyway, I'm going to give both of these episodes another 7 as well. They do everything pretty well. There's nothing too great, and to be fair, I do want something of this sort to be in the actual volumes, an explanation for this, because this is supplemental material. However, I do understand that supplemental material can argue to be watched, and also this is like less than 20 minutes of your time, so you could just bite the bullet and watch the dreaded 20 minutes of the content, which will most likely be included in a Blu-ray additional to volume 10 or whatever, right? Anyway, yeah, that's all I have. Have fun, guys. I'm finally out of school, so get ready. Videos are coming, and get ready for May. It's going to be a very interesting month. Alrighty, goodbye.